Okay, welcome to class. Today we'll definitely get some down dogs and some nice strong shapes, but we're gonna be focusing on our nervous system and just being really kind to ourselves. So with that, we're gonna begin by just finding a nice comfortable seat with a long spine. You can be seated on a blanket or a cushion, maybe a block. And we're gonna just start our Ujjayi breath here. So that ocean sound breathing, inhaling and exhaling through the nostrils. And we're gonna inhale for a count of 6 and exhale for a count of 4. And just gently counting the length of your breath. Feeling the breath move across the back of the throat. Letting the exhales be a little longer than the inhalations. And maybe we bring your hands to your abdomen and really let the belly fill up on the inhales. And drawing the navel gently back towards the spine on the exhalations. And then we're gonna just start with some big hugs to ourselves. So we're gonna just open up on our inhales. Little back bend, exhale. You're gonna cross your arms in front of you. Nose towards the chest, and inhale, opening. Exhale, switching the arms on top each time. Several more times like this. Two more like this. Big open. And exhale, we'll cross the arms. And you're just going to lean forward and you're going to gently rock side to side. Maybe the chin's gently rocking across the chest. And then on an inhale, we'll sweep those arms up and overhead. And we're going to plant our hands behind us so our fingers are tented. Yep, and we're going to bring our heart up towards the sky for several breaths. And on an exhale, you'll walk your hands out and we can stack the palms, and we're just going to bring our third eye onto the earth, or we could have it on a block or a blanket if we don't quite reach the ground. Bringing the earth up towards us. Staying with that Ujjayi breath. And then we'll bring the left ear down onto our palms, getting a gentle neck stretch. And then our right ear. And then we'll gently look up. We'll walk our hands out in front of us. And on our inhales, we're going to look up. Exhales, we're going to just release towards the earth any amount. Moving with your breath. Inhale, rising. Exhale, releasing. Inhale, rise. And exhale, we can walk the hands back, or maybe you can just send those hips back and you're going to roll up one vertebrae at a time. Nice. And then we're going to bring our right ear over our right shoulder. Nice deep breaths here. And you can explore the side of the neck, looking towards that right hip and across the room up towards the ceiling. Just gently looking up and down while you keep the ear over that right shoulder. And if anywhere feels particularly good, you can pause there. And then we're going to extend the left arm out towards the left. And maybe you reach towards the ground. For me today, it feels good to reach towards the ground. And then I'm going to sweep my right arm up, over, across my skull, and just gently pull. And I can have this gentle pull, and I can look up and down and just look for that sweet spot and then pause there. Maybe making a slight adjustment after a moment, where you're looking, where the nose is pointed. And then we'll slowly come back to center and just breathing between sides for a moment. Feeling the sensation of all of that energy moving through the left side of the neck. And then we'll just drop our chin down and we'll rock side to side a few times, or move in any way that feels nourishing to the neck. And your sighs and sounds are welcome, especially since you're at home. And then we'll eventually pause with our left ear over the left shoulder. And again, you can look down towards the left hip and then across the room towards the ceiling, just exploring the side of the neck. And then we'll extend that right arm, or the opposite arm, so reaching the opposite direction that your head is leaning. And you can move that and explore it as well. You might move it up or down. And just breathing, maintaining this ujjayi breath, this nice ocean sound breathing, massaging your nervous system, oxygenating your blood. And then if you haven't already, you can sweep that right arm up over your skull and gently, you're kind of pulling it up and away from the shoulder. And after several breaths, maybe you adjust just slightly how the head is positioned, where the nose is pointing. And slowly coming back up to center. And we'll clasp our hands behind the base of the skull, and you're just going to lean your head back and you're gently pulling. I'm going to go under the hairline. I'm gently pulling my skull up, and it's going back in space, imagining you're getting taller. And then we're going to just turn and see how far we can look behind the right shoulder and then the left. And you're going to actually turn the whole head at some point. You kind of go as far as your torso can go. And this clasp of the hands is making sure that we keep a nice long spine. And then we're gonna just take those hands and we're gonna sweep them down the back of the neck, over our traps and down towards our heart. And we'll do that a few times. Just really pulling down the energy. A couple more like that. And then we're gonna just massage our scalp. You're gonna just bring your fingertips to your scalp and just massaging the scalp in any way that feels good. Maybe you want to take your hair down or not, just options. And then you're going to massage the scalp, and then we're going to pull down on the back of the neck and then sweep that across the traps and towards the heart, towards the vagus nerve. A couple more times like that. One last one. Great, and we'll shake out the hands. And then we're gonna just start tapping all across the skull, your whole skull. And then across the forehead and the temples, third eye, and then underneath the eyes. And slowly working your way down the face, and then make sure we spend a little time just under the nose. And across the chin and the jawbone. And we'll go down the neck and then just below the clavicle, inviting our lymph to move a little bit here. And then again, we'll release that. We'll shake the hands out. And then you're going to just slowly move the hands, opening and closing them. Just really bringing your awareness, your consciousness, your mind into the hands. Maybe you can feel the air between the fingers. And then we're going to bring our hands towards our ears. You're going to kind of cup your ears or grab them in any way. We're going to just do little circles with our ears, just gently massaging the ears, maybe just pinching up and down the ear, giving yourself a little massage. It's amazing all the tension in our ears we can hold. And just a few more moments here. Nice, and we'll walk our hands out and we'll find a tabletop pose. So we can always have a blanket under our knees if that feels best for us. And we have our knees under our hips and wrist, elbow, shoulders in one line. And we'll just start with a classic cat-cow. And you're going to inhale and you'll tip the tailbone up and look up towards the ceiling. Exhale, tucking the tailbone, rolling through each vertebrae, nose towards navel, any amount. And moving with your breath here. Inhaling for cow. Exhaling for cat. Few more rounds like this. And then we'll walk our hands out for puppy pose. So you walk your hands out in front of you, releasing your chest and torso towards the earth, any amount. And then we'll walk the hands back and we'll send the hips towards the heels and we'll find child's pose. Few deep breaths here. On an inhale, we're going to send our sit bones towards our heel and we'll start rolling up one vertebrae at a time. Slowly, slowly stacking each vertebrae. Eventually, we'll be sitting on our shins. And on an inhale, we're going to rise up onto our shins. We'll reach up. We're going to take Ustrasana or camel pose, and then exhale. You're going to sweep your hands down behind you, and we're going to have our palms facing towards our low back, our fingers towards the earth. And we're going to get really tall first, and then we're going to press the hips slightly forward, and we want a lot of space through the whole spine, and we're going to take a little back bend. And we'll rise back up, and then we're going to just pat in the crease of our groin, just stimulating our lymph there, and then we're going to tap underneath our collarbones. And then we're just going to, one more time, we're going to grab at the base of our neck and we're going to pull across our traps towards our heart. And shake that out. And then we'll plant our hands and we'll send our hips up and back for downward facing dog. So our first down dog, so we want to really bring the weight into the fingers. Fingers are nice and wide. We can bend the knees as much as we need. And we'll pedal the feet out. Lifting one heel and then lowering the other. And then you're going to just gently find a moment of stillness. And then we're going to lift and drop the heels. And maybe you're kind of shaking your glutes a little bit, shaking everything out. And then on an inhale, we'll come into plank or half plank. So we can always have our knees down here. And exhale, we'll all lower our knees down and we'll lower chin and chest. And inhale for cobra. Exhale, finding that child's pose. On an inhale, we lift the hips and we arch the spine up towards the ceiling, making our way into a half plank. Exhale, lowering down knees, chest, chin. And inhale for cobra. Exhale for child's pose. And grab props or get them out of the way when they're not necessary at any time. And one more time on an inhale, we lift the hips, we arch the spine up towards the ceiling as much as possible. We find our half plank, and then we're lowering down knees, chest, chin, and inhale for cobra. Exhale, child's pose. We'll walk our hands over to the right, really rooting that left hip down towards the heel. Maybe looking slightly towards that right hip for a little gentle stretch in the neck. Finding that Ujjayi breath.
massaging the vagal nerve and your nervous system. And letting the exhales be just slightly longer than the inhalations. And then we'll walk our hands over towards the left, this time really rooting the right hip towards the earth. And maybe looking slightly towards that left hip. And back to center. And then we're sending the hips down towards, or the sit bones down towards our heels, and we're rolling up one vertebrae at a time, slowly unfurling. Eventually on our shins. And then on an inhale, we'll rise up. Exhale, we're going to release the hands down across the top of the glutes. And we're going to press our hips forward and get as tall as we can, and then slowly lean back. If you are able and it feels good, you could reach back towards the heels, or we'll have more opportunities later when we're a little warmer. And slowly coming back up, and then we're going to pat right in the crease of the groin. And we're going to pat underneath our collarbones. And then we're going to below the base of the skull, and we're going to just pull that energy down across the traps and towards the heart. 2 more times like that. Last one. Giving yourself a little massage, reminding you that you're there for yourself. And we're going to plant our hands, and we'll tuck our toes, and we'll send our hips up and back for another downward facing dog. And then we'll do those gentle heel drops, lift and drops, and kind of let the back side of the body just shake, releasing anything. Maybe you notice the jaw wants to relax while you're doing this. And then we're going to slowly walk, pausing with each step in that unique stretch towards the front of the mat, the top of the mat. And we'll pause in Uttanasana, forward fold here. We can clasp opposite elbows and sway side to side. We're going to bend our knees, and we're going to sweep our arms back behind us and just give ourselves a nice big hug. And then maybe you can straighten the legs any amount, and just using that self-soothing hold to explore the shape. And gently release the arms. We'll bend the knees deeply, and we're going to roll up one vertebrae at a time. Sweeping the arms up overhead. And exhale, hands to heart. Nice. Inhale, we'll sweep the arms up and wide. Exhale, forward fold. And we'll pause here for a moment. Nice long forward fold. We can shake the head out, yes and no. You can massage your scalp while you're here. And on an inhale, we'll come halfway up. Exhale, forward fold. Deeply bend the knees, rolling up one vertebrae at a time. Sweeping the arms wide. And we'll clasp opposite elbows.
And we're going to lean towards one side like we're between two panes of glass. And then the other. And back and forth a couple times at your own pace. One more time on each side. Really breathing into the side of the lungs. And we'll come to center. We'll reach those arms up and wide. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. And exhale, we'll plant the hands and we'll step back to downward facing dog. Shifting the weight towards the fingers and away from the heel of the hand. Bending the knees as much as you need to see if you can bring wrist, elbow, shoulder, hips all in one line. And on an inhale, we'll come into plank or half plank. Exhale, lowering down knees, chest, chin. And inhale, rising up for cobra. And then we're going to release our forearms down for Sphinx pose. So I always like my elbows a little wider than my shoulders, so I really have a lot of room for my clavicle and my heart. And then we're going to press the tops of our feet and our legs are engaged. Our pubic bones slightly tilted towards the earth and low bellies rising up, and we take a back bend. And exhale, we bring the third eye towards the mat. Inhale, we rise. Exhale, release. A few more times like that, moving with the breath. Two more. And then we're going to bring our hands underneath our shoulders and we'll press back to tabletop. And we're going to just step our left leg in front of us. So I have it on the outside of my hand. You can have it on the inside or the outside. And you could always have two blocks so you have a little more space. And we can have a blanket under our knee. And we're going to just do hip circles here for a moment. And reverse. And then you'll rock your hips laterally a little bit, so across the narrow edge of your mat. And letting your whole body rock. Nice. And then we'll walk our hand in between, and on our inhales, we're going to rise up. And exhales, we're just going to bring our hands towards the mat, straighten that front leg. Inhale, lunge. Exhale, straightening the front leg. Two more times like that. Inhale to lunge. And then exhale, this time we'll hang out over this front straight leg for a little bit. You can always grab the outside of your left foot or your front leg with the opposite hand and twist towards it any amount. And we'll slowly release, and then we're going to bend that front knee, and you're welcome to stay in a low lunge, or you can tuck those back toes under. And we're going to imagine like we're running. We're going to be running in a sprint, And you're going to draw your legs towards center, and it's going to lift up your back. For Anjaneyasana, we can stay right here or inhale as we rise. Exhale, we're going to tap that back knee or lower it any amount. 2 more times. And last one. Excellent. And we'll turn our back foot parallel to the back of the mat for our warrior 2. Yep. So that front knee's right over the ankle. And we're going to press our feet down into the earth. And we're going to draw that energy. You can feel that energy coming towards center. We're going to receive it on our inhales. And release it on our exhales. One more time. And we'll pause in our warrior 2. And we're going to just inhale. Open up that big exhale. Inhale. Exhale. That self-hug. A few more times. And this time you're going to bring your elbows up through center and then open them up, finding your warrior 2. And we'll bring those hands around our front foot and we'll step back to our downward facing dog. If you like those heel bounces, you can do a few here. And then we're going to lower our knees down towards the mat and we'll find a nice wide leg child's pose. Knees are nice and wide. And then we'll send our hips, our sit bones towards our heels, rolling up nice and slow, unfurling one vertebrae at a time, eventually coming into seated on our shins. And then inhale, we'll sweep the arms up. We're on our shins and we'll prepare for that camel pose again, Ustrasana, so hands on palms facing the glutes. And we tuck the tail. Get your tailbone tucked so your low back is nice and long and spacious, and then get as tall as we can. And then we might lean back. And we want space through the whole spine, so no need to come back any further if you feel any compression in the low back. And if there's lots of space there, maybe you reach back towards your heels. Wherever you are, nice steady breath. Ujjayi breath. And slowly coming back up. And then we're going to bring our second foot forward for that sequence we just did. So we first have our foot on the outside of our hands, and we're going to just do little circles here. And reverse. And then we're going to just rock the hips laterally. So from narrow side of the mat, long side to long side, between, across your mat. I hope that makes sense. And then we'll walk that foot in between the hands. We'll press down between the feet and we'll rise up for a low lunge. Then exhales, we're gonna just straighten that front leg and release the hands. Inhale, we rise up for a low lunge. Exhale. And keep ebbing and flowing with the breath like this. Do a few more. Last low lunge. And then exhale, and we're gonna pause in this forward fold over the extended right leg or an extended leg. And if it felt good, you can grab the outside of your foot with the opposite hand and just gently twist towards that leg. And slowly release, and then we'll find that low lunge and we'll tuck our back toes. We'll pop ourselves up, or we can stay in a low lunge. And we'll find Anjaneyasana or high lunge. See if you can bring that back heel right over your toe mound. And if you're unstable, we can always shorten the stance and widen it. So wider and shorter will create more stability. Longer and narrower is more challenging. Exhales, we're going to tap that back knee or lower it any amount. Inhale, we rise. One more. And one more. And rising up. And then we'll pivot the back foot parallel to the back of the mat. So back foot's parallel to the short edge of your mat. And we're in warrior two. That front knee is right over the front ankle. And we'll find our arms. We pick up the toes and we really grab the earth, and you can feel that energy coming towards your midline. And we're going to inhale, receive it. Using the hands, and exhale, we release it. Moving with the breath. And then we'll find our warrior two. And I'm going to turn around so I can see you. And then we're going to do that hug breathing practice. So inhale, we open up. Exhale, we give ourselves that hug. We're alternating which arms on top each time. A few more. Last one. Exhale, we're going to pause with those arms in front of us. Taking a few breaths here, letting the neck relax. And on another inhale, you bring the arms up, elbows through center, and then out and open. Nice. And we'll cartwheel our hands around that front foot, and we'll step back for Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. And then you'll slowly walk to the front of your mat, pausing with each unique stretch along the way. And we'll pause in a forward fold. And we'll give ourselves that hug again. So we're going to clasp around the back of side of our legs, drawing ourselves in towards ourselves.
And then we'll deeply bend the knees and we'll roll up one vertebrae at a time. Sweeping the arms up and coming into standing. Exhale, hands to heart. And then we'll bring our feet just a little wider than our hips. And we'll see if we can rise up on our tippy toes. And we'll try to maintain that as we bend the knees. We bring the hands slowly towards the heart. We can always have a blanket rolled under our heels if a squat is not quite available. And then eventually we can lower the heels down. Nice. We'll just release our head and neck towards the earth. And then you'll slowly sit back. Maybe you have a blanket or something underneath your sit bones, and we're going to come into a seated position with our legs extended in front of us. If you have a block, you can place a block on your legs, and we're just going to do any kind of forward fold. Nice yin shape. We don't need to have a flat back or any agenda, just really being with ourselves. Let your hands touch your legs in a kind and gentle way. And slowly rolling up one vertebrae at a time. We'll bring our soles of our feet together and we can just give ourselves a nice little foot massage. Massaging the toes, just gently using the thumbs to get every pressure point across the foot, in between the toes. Spending a little extra time anywhere that feels delightful or needed, in need of your own attention. And then we'll close the legs. We're just going to give ourselves one more big. Thanking yourself for taking this time. And then we can gently roll back one vertebrae at a time, nice and slow. And we'll come onto our backs. And we'll lift our hips up and send them to the right. And then we'll drop our knees to the left, bringing the arms into a cactus shape for a classic supine twist. Probably a very familiar pose. Hopefully you're feeling your awareness in your body and the mind is settled. But we can always use our hands to help us bring us to our body. You can gently expand the hands as you inhale and contract them as you exhale, just helping bring that consciousness in the body if the mind is wandering or overactive.
Few more breaths here. And then we'll slowly roll onto our backs. And we can adjust the hips. You could draw the knees in towards you if you want for a second. Maybe circles on the ceiling in both directions. And then we'll pick the hips up. We'll plant the feet and shift the hips towards the left or the second side. And then dropping the knees down towards the right for supine twist in the second direction. And then slowly rolling onto your back one more time. We can draw those knees into the chest. And just massaging your back in any way that feels nourishing. Giving yourself one more hug. Remembering the power of self-touch and how nourishing it is. Hopefully this practice inspires to give yourself more hugs throughout the day. And then we can take a happy baby or any last shapes. And then we'll extend the legs and we'll find a Savasana. If you want a blanket rolled up underneath your legs, you can do that under your knees if you need to cover yourself. Making sure you get nice and cozy. Inviting movement back into the body. Maybe gently rubbing your ears or any little touch that feels nourishing. slowly awakening yourself. Eventually taking a nice big morning stretch. Slowly rolling to one side as you're ready. And eventually making your way to a comfortable seat. Thank you for your practice and your presence. I hope this practice was nourishing and calming. And we're going to close with bringing our right hand to our left shoulder, left hand to our right shoulder, and just giving ourselves a nice gentle hug. We can rock back and forth if that feels authentic. Be well.